Hey there, Elsa. Could you introduce yourself for our viewers?
Yes, hello. Alastair Scott's my name. I'm the National Member of Parliament for the Wairarapa electorate.
Excellent. So I'm just going to put a few questions to you, Alastair. So I guess first of all, how would you rate your first term in Parliament as National MP for Wairarapa?
Busy, exciting, interesting, and full on.
Oh, absolutely. And are there things that you would like to do to improve on your performance as MP? What were other things that you think that if you were to be re-elected for a second term, what would you do? What would you like? What could you do better, do you reckon?
Oh, what could we do better? We want to continue to doing the same sort of stuff, really. We want economic growth, more economic growth in the Wairarapa. We want more people turning up to grow the economy, to support the local economy, to have more kids in our classrooms, to have more shops in our main streets, to have more people consuming and growing the local economy. And that's happening now already under this government, because we have 3.5% growth across the country. People are choosing to move to the Wairarapa. You've seen the construction boom. There's lots of people working out in the construction sector particularly. And I'd like to see more of that, more of the same really, and that enables us to build more and better roads, continues to enable us to invest in our railways, our health and education sectors, and we're seeing that already, and I want to see that continue. The risk is that a Labour government coming in, and it will take away the revenue by taxing farming communities. So at the moment we have a potentially, with a Labour government, we will have a water tax, a capital gains tax, a fart tax, a inheritance tax. So, and no one can tell me from either party or from Labour particularly, no one can tell me how much it's going to cost a family living in Carterton or living in Waipukurau, how much those policies are going to cost, let alone a family who is actually a farmer. Because any farming income will directly affect the incomes of all families in the Wairarapa electorate, and in the long term and medium term will directly affect the incomes of Auckland families and Wellington families. So we need to consider the layers of tax that are being proposed by the Labour government, Labour Party, on rural economies. Very expensive, and you know, really, you think about it, Erin, when you go and buy something, you want to know what it costs, right?
Yes.
You look and see, I want to buy this, can I afford it? I want to know the cost. Well, at the moment, we don't know what the cost of a Labour Party will be. And I think it's fair that we should know what the cost of all those taxes are on our communities.
How will water tax work?
Ask the Labour guys. I mean, they say 2 cents per cube, but it's only on irrigators, and so councils are exempt. So when you and I brush our teeth and have a shower, clean our car, that is not taxed. The irrigators are taxed. So apple guys, vineyard guys, farmers are taxed. Now these guys have got rules and regulations that they must comply with to have consent to irrigate. They're not the dirty users of water, they're the clean users of water, because they've got the rules and regs around the use of water. So for the Labour Party to say that irrigators are the problem, they're just barking up the wrong tree. The dirtiest waterways are in Auckland, and they are not being proposed to be taxed by the Labour Party. Only the irrigators are being taxed, which is just a nonsense.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take you to a question about mental health in the region.
Yep.
And I was starting on something like with Wairarapa, as you probably know, Wairarapa has the highest rate of suicide per head of population at the moment. What are things that you can do to help reduce this, to help improve our region's mental health overall? Yeah,
so very good question. Just on the weekend we had the Riders Against Teen Suicide here in Masterton. 600 pairs of shoes laid out, very moving ceremony, very moving gathering, but also a group of people who had a lot of hope, and I support the community talking about these issues, talking about mental health. asking people, asking their neighbour if they're okay. And there are a lot of pressures on people all the time, whether it's financial pressure, whether it's family pressure. So it's important that communities check with their one-on-one. It's a one-on-one thing initially, and then a family looking after their families, and communities looking after groups within their communities. So absolutely, there's issues in various pockets of the Wairarapa which are in particular specific types of stress, and we need to get it on the table and discuss it and talk about it. And you would have seen the new initiatives that Minister Coleman has put in place to support mental health across the country.
Excellent. Would you say Wairarapa DHB may need extra support to reduce suicide numbers?
Oh, look, we all need, the whole of the communities across the country need more support, and that's what this government is doing. That is why we're investing, I think it's over $100 million more into mental health. So there is a lot going on, and I'm just trying to remember the name of the initiative that's just been announced. Life Keepers. So Life Keepers is a new initiative, and Jonathan Coleman's talked about it, and that is supporting community groups who are there to support those who are in need of mental health support.
Excellent. Will the national government commit to an initiative to bring the suicide numbers to zero in New Zealand?
You can't legislate for that sort of thing, right? It's like, it's like legislating to remove all of poverty, or it's not something you can legislate. It's for communities to take responsibility and take it upon themselves to get together, and it includes and funding from central government for sure, but it's for the communities, the volunteers, the health sector, the church groups, the youth groups, to support one another. And it's not just youth suicide we're talking about, so we're talking about older people as well. Great initiative around the country, particularly in rural areas, Men's Shed. MENZ Shed. Great bunch of guys supporting those older guys, older men, to keep involved, to have a sense of well-being, to keep them employed. Now, employment is actually the strongest antidote to mental health issues. People in work have a purpose. They set examples for their kids and for their community. It gives them a sense of well-being. It gives everyone, those who are in work, a sense of well-being, and it's really important, and it is a fact that we have a very high worker participation rate in this country, one of the lowest unemployment rates in the OECD, and that's really important to keep people in the workforce for their mental health. Right.
And speaking of employment and work opportunities, what are plans to sort of bring apprenticeships to the Wairarapa to make sure that youth have more opportunities?
Well, you just need to drive anywhere between Featherston and Waipawa and you'll see framing. You'll see new subdivisions, you'll see building going up, and you'll see new, whether it's PGG Wrightson's or a Mitre 10, you'll see these guys setting up their new stores around the Wairarapa because there is a building boom. So there are more people coming to the Wairarapa electorate from Waipawa through to Featherston, building houses, sparkies, plumbers, carpenters, more apprentices here than there ever has been. So there's a fantastic opportunity for school leavers, if they choose, and it's up to them to decide, to get involved in the construction business locally.
Yeah, absolutely. And a question around the renting in Wairarapa and housing. We've talked about the housing boom, the building boom, a lot of young couples coming here to buy, especially from Wellington. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of renters squeezed out of the market and a huge shortage of rentals here in the Wairarapa. Very obvious if you look on Trade Me. But what does the National Party plan to do to sort of support people who are renters who are not finding the accommodation, and how can this situation sort of be controlled in the Wairarapa? How can we make sure that we have enough rentals?
So we've got to build more houses. So the reason that we've got a shortage and a demand, we've got a strong demand for housing, is because Kiwis are choosing to stay in New Zealand. They're voting with their feet, and they're saying the opportunity is here in New Zealand, here in the Wairarapa, to bring up my family, and they're turning up. They're not leaving to go to Australia. About 40,000 people used to go to Australia net every year. They're choosing to stay, that's a demand situation they're creating, and that is creating this shortage, but you can see that shortage is being met by the massive construction that is going on around the whole country. And that supply will come on stream, that will create more housing. You'll find that rentals will come down in price. House prices in Auckland are already reducing. Christchurch houses are reducing in price. More rentals are coming on the market. In the Wairarapa, we have a strong demand, but we do not have we have about 5, my understanding is and I'll check this number, I haven't checked it lately, but we have 5 people only in emergency housing in the Wairarapa. So although the demand's strong, it is certainly not a crisis situation.
Okay. A question around sort of the economy and wages. Wairarapa has traditionally had a low wage economy.
Yep.
I guess in what ways can we is the government sort of committing to boosting low wages and boosting opportunities in the low wage sector?
Well, we want higher wages, of course, and part of that is being connected to the rest of the world via, and I'm talking about internet and high-speed broadband. So with connectivity, you can be anywhere and operate. Some businesses, whether you're an architect, even medical centres are doing a lot of transacting across the internet. So you've seen examples of that here in the Wairarapa, where people have come from Wellington or from overseas, set up business and get themselves connected. We've also got a strong demand for trades because of the construction boom, and again, people might complain about how much they have to pay to find and pay for a builder to get a fence built, for example. Well, that's good. That only means that wages for those guys are going up, and I know here in the Wairarapa, a lot of tradies, a lot of young guys and girls are turning up to car yards and buying new cars. So that's all about putting the money back into the local economy, which enables more money to be spent in the retail sector, in the main street, in the car yards, on other stuff in the local economy. So that's happening. So another connectivity is that railway line that we have, more commuters than ever commuting to Wellington, earning good money, earning good wages, and coming to live and spend in the Wairarapa. So it's all coming together pretty damn nicely, I think.
Are there ways in which our rail links can be improved?
Say that again?
Are there ways in which our rail links can be improved? Can our rail links
of course, everything can be improved and is improving. So all those orange cones on the roads, that's a very visible way of seeing the roads being improved. And you know, in the last 6 years, there's been huge improvements. 9 years over the Rimataka Hill, all the way through, all the way from Featherston, all the way through the roads of Waira. There's safety barriers all over the Rimataka Hill Road. Dannyvirk, all the way east to west. Dannyvirk through to Waipukurau, Waipawa. Roads are big and wide and straight. So that is a fantastic improvement in infrastructure, and again, that enables people to be encouraged to work and conduct their business in the Wairarapa.
As far as rail links...
rail, sorry, and exactly the same. So the rail link is also being improved. It's $22 million being invested in the Hutt Valley end of it. People say, well, what the hell has that got to do with the Wairarapa? It has a lot to do with the Wairarapa. If you can get trains moving more efficiently in the Hutt Valley with a double tracking, it enables a much better service from Masterton through to Wellington, because there's less Hutt Valley trains in the way with the double tracking. There is maintenance business cases right now being put in place for the Masterton to Wellington, and I know I can't remember the number of sleepers that need to be replaced, and they will be replaced. But it will take time, just like maintaining a road with the orange cones. We will see some of that slow down in traffic. A little bit frustrating at times on the rail network.
Yeah, cool. And did you make a submission at all to the LGC about amalgamation? And also, do you believe there are benefits to amalgamation of the Wairarapa councils?
Yes, yep, exactly. No, I didn't make a submission. I keep out of that. But I do support an amalgamation as proposed by the local government commissioners, and I expect a referendum to take place. You know, an opportunity for everyone to confirm what the LG Commissioner has stated, and I'm looking forward to voting positively for that merge of the three councils.
And you believe that this will contribute to a better running of Wairarapa, a better, healthier...
Yeah, so there's opportunity that we're missing out on because we're three separate units, if you like. If there was one Wairarapa, we would think slightly differently about where we might have, an event centre. Well, Masterton has an empty town hall at the moment. You know, if you had one council, you'd think strategically about where the best place is to have a town hall. And maybe it is the Carterton Event Centre because it's already there, so why build another one? Those sorts of things. The other benefit is when a builder or a plumber presents some plans to the district councils, at the moment the same plans can bring back 3 different sets of questions. That's ridiculous. So we need some consistency across the valley with regard to building consents, and as I say, there's opportunities that we're missing out, I think, because we're having 3 small councils dealing with the issue, whereas one larger one will create better efficiencies and grabbing of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you sort of planning on doing in order to protect and preserve and clean up Wairarapa's waterways?
Yep.
Both the waterways and also to help preserve marine life, such as species such as shortfin eels, whitebaits, which are now endangered. What does the government plan on doing?
Yeah, so I had Minister Nick Smith here in the Wairarapa just yesterday.
Yep.
We visited Carterton District Council's wastewater system, very state-of-the-art. It's a model for other small communities to follow, and that involves a number of ponds, a number of irrigation systems, and so that contributes to cleaner waterways in the Wairarapa. Then we went to a dairy farm, again, a lot of investment by the dairy farmer around storing the effluent over winter, and he must do that because he is not allowed to put effluent directly into the river. It is just not allowed. He'd lose his consent to farm. So farmers are spending a lot of money investing in waterways. They're fencing off waterways. There's riparian planting, and you'll remember 40 years ago, well I certainly remember 40 years ago when there was top dressers flying across the hills of the Wairarapa dumping phosphates, dumping nitrates on the hills to fertilise so we could grow more sheep, more wool basically. A lot of that nitrate just went flushed straight into the river. We had the Wainawa freezing works, again putting a whole lot of mess into the river, and back in those days the councils, Masterton District, Carterton and South Wairarapa, had much more basic, if any, type of treatment of sewage, putting nasty stuff into the river. So for anyone to think that we had clean water and beautiful swimming holes 40 years ago, it's just not the case. We had a lot of nasty stuff going into the rivers that we don't have now. So we've already been improving waterways a huge amount. They're much cleaner than they've been. We do have more work to do, and as I say, farmers and city councils are doing a lot to do that. The government is supporting clean waterways. There's been a couple of $100,000 put into a project which is co-run by iwi and DOC down in Lake Wairarapa, and that's regarding a salt marsh and a spawning area. There will be other monies coming in from the central government to support cleaning up waterways, but there's a lot of money. I think the number is about 100 million to be allocated. I think 40 million's been allocated so far. There's more to be allocated, and I'm hopeful we'll get more invested in the Wairarapa.
As a question, who owns the water in New Zealand?
No one owns the water in New Zealand.
No one owns the water? Why'd you say that?
Well, that's the fact. No one owns the water.
Yeah. Where do you sort of stand on I guess, the shipment of New Zealand water overseas?
So we're talking about bottled water?
Correct.
Okay, so to me, if you're going to, for water, water is water. Whether you put it in a plastic bottle or you put it through an irrigation scheme, whether it's or whether you drip it onto a vineyard, or put it down on a shower, or brush your teeth, or clean your car with it. Now we're not perhaps using water in the most efficient manner. I'm a very strong advocate of water storage. So the Wairarapa Water Use Project is a very important piece of infrastructure that I believe we should have here, as is the Ruataniwha Water Project in the northern part of the electorate. It's a shame that at the moment that Ruataniwha project is on hold. It's been stopped at the moment, but we'll see what happens. Prime Minister English has said that we must allow that project to go ahead for the benefit of the City Council to secure water supply and for the social and environmental benefits that the Ruataniwha project has, as well as for the downstream effect in the export markets that it will create. Now, coming back to your bottled water issue, bottled water is a very, very, very tiny amount of water. So it's actually an insignificant amount of water. Now, whether it's exported or whether it's consumed in New Zealand, I don't mind if an Australian, we don't tax a bottle of wine when it goes out and is consumed by Australians. A bottle of wine or a bunch of apples is just water. So I don't see the difference between an Australian consuming that product, apples, wine, or a bottle of water, or a Kiwi consuming that product, apples, wine, or a bottle of water. We have to be consistent. That's the most important thing. At the moment, the Labour Party has a policy, I think it's 10 cents per litre, on only bottled water that is exported, but apparently Coca-Cola are exempt. Why? I don't know. It's the same thing. Water with brown stuff and sugar, exempt. So whatever we choose to do, I think consistency is really important, that we're consistent across and we treat everyone the same.
All right. Anything else you wanted to add, Alastair, before we close out?
Well, I think there's obviously a choice that the voter can make. It's for continued growth, continued high employment, continued prosperity, continued social services, high level of social services that we have here. I mean, when I hear the leader of the Labour Party say she doesn't feel like she's gaining from this government, I say, well, have you been into a hospital lately and had to rely on the services of the hospital staff? Best in the world, top service. When you go into the A&E, you are treated fantastically. Has she rung the cops lately because something's been ripped off or burgled from her home? Again, top service from those guys. The police do a fantastic job. Or dealing with the education sector, I deal with the teachers of my kids, fantastic service, all funded by the government, all enabled to be top service because we have a growing economy. You have that choice. You can continue to support that service, or you can choose to be taxed to death. Whether it's a water tax, a capital gains tax, an inheritance tax, a fart tax, it's going to slow down particularly the rural sector, and we know that when the rural sector gets hurt, the city guys suffer at the end of the day. You've just got to connect those two dots, and then we'd all be voting for National.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Okay.